rose from my knees.
All right, Jordan, just wanted to do a video conversation with you about Schaeffer Cox. You alerted me to the story by posting on social media and recently creating a new music video, which I've been waiting on that for a few months now, or actually maybe over a year for you to produce something else for me to watch as I travel and as I, your music really does inspire me as I do my work as a John Birch Society field coordinator. And anyways, I thought, I've done some research on Schaeffer Cox, and I just thought, how the heck did I overlook this? And but let's go back a little bit to how you and I know each other, so that people know, because you and I, and you may not remember this, but I first saw you in Cincinnati, and you were at a Tea Party rally there back in 2008, probably, maybe 2007. I was in the stands, and I was thinking I didn't belong with all these neoconservatives that were pretending to be Tea Party members, but I liked your music. And anyways, I thought, wow, I'd really like to get to know that musician, and I think I did walk past you, but I didn't say hi, but down the road we did run into each other, and we've spent some time together. And I'm thankful for that. But I'm just amazed by what you do. I'm one of those guys who wishes I was a good guitarist or a good singer, and I've tried to practice on my own, but I don't think I'll ever reach your potential. But anyways, I'm glad to see that you're back with a new video, and I want to learn more about Schaeffer Cox, and that's really why I wanted to do this video. So anyways, welcome, Jordan.
Well, thanks, Evan. Yeah, it's great to see you, buddy. Just to clarify, that Tea Party you saw me at is kind of a legendary story in my journey, because usually the Tea Parties don't like me very much because I'm very anti-war. And I was very surprised to get a call from them, and they were expecting about 10,000 people. They ended up having about 12,000 because Sean Hannity was going to be doing his show live from that Tea Party, but he got a phone call from Fox News that he had to leave. He couldn't be seen to be supporting the Tea Party. Once his superiors found out what he was doing, they pulled the plug, and he left, and everybody had paid $60 a ticket to see him. And so you had this huge, angry, war-loving neocon audience who were not too happy with me once I started doing my stuff. So, but the leadership were all Ron Paul people, and they wanted me to come do the anti-war songs, and so I did. And it was kind of a disaster, but it was definitely one for the scrapbook for sure.
And I remember that feeling in the audience where we were going, we all showed up to see Sean Hannity, and I actually didn't. I wasn't a big fan of Sean Hannity, but I could just tell that people were just disgusted over the fact that Sean Hannity didn't show up. And I forgot what the excuse was, but they never said that it was due to the fact the leadership had set Sean Hannity up on with this Jordan Page musician who was going to play these Liberty songs, that Sean Hannity, Sean Hannity has been no friend of peace. I mean, he has often been on Fox News demanding that we go to war with countries that we shouldn't be going to war with, and it was I didn't realize at the time, I was so new to the movement, I didn't realize what a great thing had happened. And upon meeting you, I finally learned the truth about what had taken place at that event.
Yeah, it was a wild time. It was something I worked into the tour that I was currently doing, and just ended up being a story that I've told, because I played a song called War Machine, was my third and final song of that set. And the first two songs they had clapped for because they weren't really listening to what I was saying. And by the third song, War Machine, I always tell the story of that Tea Party rally whenever I play War Machine live, because I got about maybe 25 people clapped out of 12,000 on that third song.
Wow.
They were finally listening.
Well, I was one of those clapping, I can tell you that. So
awesome, man.
So we went on, and I met you, I think, through the Ron Paul campaign, and then at least I listened to your songs. I think after the Ron Paul campaign was over with, you and me both decided to keep on going and continue our effort to promote these ideas of freedom. And we eventually got to know each other better when I was working for Ben Swan. And one time you traveled out here to South Carolina and you did a concert out here. And actually twice you did that. So once you did that for a group here in Spartanburg, where I live, at the American Legion, and the second time you did it at a friend's house who has a house on the lake. And so I've got to know you through that. I kept thinking, man, I thought I was dedicated to this movement, and here Jordan is Jordan's going out on his own, and you're basically a one-man show when you're out on the road. And I just couldn't believe the dedication that you're willing to give to this movement, because as you know, so many people who are in better situations than you and me don't dedicate any time or do anything for the movement, even though they sort of understand that there's something really bad going on in America and something needs to be done about it.
Well, when you have a calling, and you can either say yes or no. And you and I are just men that say yes. So I don't deny who I am and what I believe, and I've got children that I'm trying to create a better world for. So if I sit on my backside and don't take part in the process and don't try to make things better, then I'm going to have to look them in the eye in 20 years and tell them that I didn't do anything to help. So I'm not gonna put myself in that situation.
Right. And also from a religious perspective, when we go to meet our Creator, we should be able to say that we didn't ignore what was happening. I mean, because there's just significant things that are going on. I mean, just look at what happened to Schaeffer Cox. I mean, for us to ignore what happened to him and what's still happening to him, we're a bunch of cowards if we look the other way. That's the way I look at it. And Schaeffer's not the only one, but I think Schaeffer is. They made an example out of him, but let's get to that story, because when I was helping
Sure.
Ron Paul in 2011, in 2012 when he was running for president, I had I have no recollection of anybody saying anything about Schaeffer Cox, and this is right when the trial was happening in Alaska.
Right. Well, let me give you some background. So, Schaeffer was a Ron Paul libertarian activist and politician in Alaska. He was in Fairbanks, Alaska. He was running for office. He's a young guy in his 20s. Young guy running for office. He got 38% of the vote in his first run. I can't remember if it was a Senate run or just running for state rep. I'm not sure. I'm foggy on that detail, but he got 38% of the vote in his very first run, and people just loved him. I mean, the same kind of qualities that attracted us to Ron Paul and made us follow Ron Paul. Schaeffer had those in spades, but was far younger man, and he was attracting lots of large crowds everywhere he went. And as he was running for office, he was learning from his constituents in Fairbanks about the gross abuses of power by child protective services, the court systems, the police, all the way up to the higher levels of government. And then he dug deeper and sex trafficking ring and drug trafficking ring going on, being perpetrated by the state. And he started calling it out and naming names. And when you're poking the bear and accusing the deep state of the things that it does, naming names is like the one thing you don't do, and he did that. A very, very brave person, and he went that extra mile. And over 2 years, the FBI employed 2 career criminals to be informants for them and infiltrate Schaeffer's inner circle. And they were successful at doing that, and they tried to get him on tape to incite him to violence. They were trying to convince him that his life was in danger, that his children's lives were in danger, and that they should go and murder federal agents. And Schaeffer flatly refused, just for 2 years, just said absolutely not. Like, we're going to do everything peacefully. We're going to, if they ever come for me, I'm going to pull a Gandhi, not a Rambo. That's one of his famous quotes, and I put that in the music video for the song that I've written for him, which is called "The Persecution of Schaeffer Cox." And In the end, several assassination attempts were made on his life. He and his family were actually kidnapped by one of the informants for about 21 days. They were held hostage in an attic. They were finally set free and taken to a location where they were supposed to meet a trucker who was going to get them out of the state of Alaska to save their lives. It was all a ruse, and they were ambushed by a SWAT team at this location. It is pretty much understood that incident was meant to end in Schaeffer's death. One of the informants took an unmarked firearm and planted it on Schaeffer's person or near him to justify the SWAT team murdering him. But the owner of the property where this took place randomly happened upon the scene and was a witness to it. And so rather than killing him, they arrested him instead. And when they don't have anything to arrest you for, they charge you with conspiracy. So Schaeffer was charged with conspiracy to murder federal agents and solicitation to murder. There were also some weapons charges that were bogus as well. And the Alaska state case that he was tried under originally was thrown out for lack of evidence. All the tapes that the FBI had on him were played in court, and it was thrown out. He wasn't even found guilty or not guilty. It was a non-starter because there was literally no evidence against him. And while he was still incarcerated and in the process to be released, the feds came in and tried him outside of their jurisdiction. So they superseded their jurisdiction and tried him again illegally on their own. And they couldn't find a federal judge to hear this farce. So they pulled one out of retirement.
Wow. And
this judge refused to allow those tapes that proved Schaeffer's innocence. He refused to allow them to be played in court for the jury to hear. The prosecution, who was notorious for prosecutorial misconduct, there's a long history there, and they withheld about 500 pages of evidence that would have set Schaeffer free as well. So they knew he was innocent. They clearly knew he was innocent, but they railroaded him anyway because there is nothing more guarded, nothing more protected by the deep state than child sex trafficking. And that is what Schaeffer was calling out and was providing evidence to the public for. And so they slammed him as hard as they possibly could. They moved the trial from Alaska to Washington so that no witnesses for Schaeffer could testify on his behalf. At every turn, it was just a kangaroo court type scenario. His lawyers gave him terrible legal advice, and he was a young guy and he was facing a lot of time, and he took their advice thinking that they know what the right thing to do is, and in the end he was given 26 years for a crime that never took place. It's a complete fiction. And so he was then moved to one of two secret black site prisons in the U.S. These are called Communication Management Units, CMUs. Now, there's really several stories here. One is the weaponization of our criminal injustice system towards a member of the libertarian community who was making tremendous inroads and having tremendous success, and to silence his voice. That's one story. And the absolute kangaroo type trial that was done to him outside of the constitutional jurisdiction of the federal government. Mm-hmm. The second is these secret prisons, Evan. So these prisons are not under congressional oversight, and it is not possible, even with Freedom of Information Act requests, it is not possible to find out who owns them and who runs them because they're not government entities. FOIA requests have revealed that because they're not government entities that own and run the prisons, the government doesn't have to give you any information because it's not government information. So these are secret prisons, black site prisons, and they are known as little Guantanamo Bays because when Guantanamo Bay was supposedly shut down, which I don't believe that it was, but when it was supposedly shut down, most of those prisoners were moved to these two locations. Okay, so we have basically ISIS terrorists who were being held in Guantanamo Bay are now in these two locations in Marion, Illinois, and Terre Haute, Indiana. Schaeffer was first sent to Marion, Illinois. He was one of very few Christians in this prison. The vast majority of them are Muslim, and attempts were made on his life for being a Christian. So he was moved to the worst of the two prisons, which is in Terre Haute, Indiana, which is almost completely radical Muslim population. So he is one of like 5 prisoners that they call balancers. And balancers are basically just non-Muslims to put in this prison so that no one can accuse them of only having Muslims in the prison. Okay?
Oh,
but in Schaeffer's case, he is a very famous prisoner, and he's subjected to the same tortures. Torture is very common, very prevalent in these prisons. They 4-point shackle these men to their beds. They shackle them in humiliating stress positions for long periods of time. They do sleep deprivation, where they wake them up every 30 minutes to get them disoriented. They do extreme temperature torture. Well, they'll turn the heat up so hot that they can't put their feet on the floor, and they'll make it so cold that the water in the toilets freeze. They put them in extreme isolation and pitch black isolation for long periods of time. When Schaeffer leaked information I'm about to share with you, he was put in their deepest, darkest solitary confinement dungeon. It's literally a dungeon for 30 days, to the point where he forgot what a human face looked like because he was in the pitch black for an extended period.
Oh my.
So back in November, Schaeffer is one of 5 Christians in this prison. Back in November of 2018, and he and these men were in a room praying together with a Bible and singing hymns, and they were ambushed by a large force of other inmates who seized one of the men, tied his hands behind his back, stabbed him in the heart, and then sawed his head off with a wire in true ISIS style. And then they grabbed another man and they stabbed him 12 times, but he somehow miraculously lived through it. The guards did nothing. They hid, and they locked themselves in a room and hid from this instead of helping these prisoners. And they waited for the SWAT team to scramble, which took 15 minutes. So it was a very slow, agonizing death for this poor inmate. And Schaeffer and the other men were able to finally save the second man who had been stabbed 12 times, and the SWAT team showed up, and then it was all put down. When Schaeffer leaked this information to his legal team, he was punished and put in that dungeon for 30 days. Just an absolute horrific story. The prison has been trying to cover it up. These black site prisons they're illegal. They're not under congressional oversight. Gross human rights violations. The men there are dying of starvation-related diseases. Schaeffer currently has scurvy. Many of the men have beriberi. These are all starvation-related diseases because they're not being fed enough calories to sustain life. Schaeffer is actually forced to spend hours a day with the very men who murdered his friend so brutally right in front of him. And there is a open hit on every Christian in the prison. And it's widely believed that Schaeffer was sent there to be killed, to be silenced. He has written letters from prison detailing these things in great detail. But one point that he's made that I think is really interesting and important to say is that, he's being, these men are being martyred and persecuted for their faith right here in American soil in these prisons. These are prisons within prisons, mind you. And he says that there have been many Catholics and Jews and folks of their other religions that have come to this unit who have converted to Islam in order to escape persecution and death. And he is one of very few who refuses to do that, and he says he'll follow Jesus to the end. There's no chance of that ever happening. And so what's really encouraging about all this, so this all sounds awful, because it is awful, but what's really encouraging about all this is that the judge in Schaeffer's case last month ordered that all the exculpatory evidence in his case to be released. So he has a resentencing coming up this summer, and if this evidence is presented at that resentencing, it could literally lead to his freedom.
So
The
were
weapons
you were
charge
you were you
against.
working on this music video before that happened? Did this just by divine providence maybe happen just as you guys were starting to really mobilize to get word out about what's happening to him?
It's a great question. It's entirely divine providence, in my opinion. So the story on how I got involved in it is this: last June, I was performing at an event, and someone came up to me and handed me a book that was the lost lyrics of Schaeffer Cox. Now, I had heard Schaeffer's name a dozen times in the last 7 years, but never looked into it. I knew kind of who he was, that he was a prisoner, but I didn't know the story, and I just didn't take the initiative, regrettably, to find out. But I read the book, and it was like 60 songs, 60 poems that he had written from prison, and it just broke my heart. I have so much in common with this guy. We're both patriots, Christians, husbands, fathers. We have just had so much in common. I really identified with him, and it prompted me to go and
if he would have
learn
never gone
more
to
about.
prison, I bet you the three of us would have met, during our, time in the Liberty Movement. I think that would have definitely, probably been the case. Just knowing what you've done, especially you, maybe
I'm
not
sure
me,
of
but
it.
you would have met him, on the trail.
Well, ironically, he told me recently, because I'm in touch with him now, he told me recently that someone had given him my phone number back in 2009 or 10, and he had been meaning to call me to introduce himself, and right before that happened, I guess he was arrested. So that precluded it from happening. But now we've met under other circumstances. So I contacted a friend of mine who I knew was in touch with him in prison and was advocating for him on social media. She put me in touch with Schaeffer's Angels, which is a nonprofit, a 501c4 nonprofit that handles his legal defenses, his legal defense fund, and provides for his family and does a lot of advocate work for him. And we presented this idea of doing a song, and they loved the idea, and then they helped me to get it produced. And while all this was right before I wrote it is when I got the information about the murder in the prison, and it weighed so heavy on my heart. And I know it's a burden to carry that information for you and people listening, but this happened, and it's still happening, and it needs to be stopped. He needs to be set free, and these prisons need to be shut down. And he so I learned about this information, and it really weighed heavily on me. I wrote the song. We got it recorded in December, and then we decided together between me and Schaeffer's Angels to produce a music video for it. And so I put all the pieces together, and now we've released this video last Sunday on March 10th, which is the anniversary of his unlawful arrest. And what we're trying to do is get people to go to freeschaeffer.com and sign up for the email list so you can get regular updates from Schaeffer, get his letters from prison, and get updates on his case, and to donate to the Legal Defense Fund. 50% of the song sales of the song that I've written, The Persecution of Schaeffer Cox, go directly to the foundation.
Okay.
So I took several lines from Schaeffer's book, and I put them into the song, so he is technically a co-author of the song. So I'm sending 50% of all the sales automatically to the fund for his legal defense.
Well, that's Now, has he heard this song? Is he aware that you wrote this song?
He is aware. Yep, I sent him the lyrics as soon as I first got in touch with him, and he loves it. Of course, he hasn't. He's only heard it once from me over the phone, where I sang it to him with my guitar, and that was a really special moment because we had 15 minutes to talk. He has 2 15-minute phone calls a week. He has been denied most visitors. I think the only visitor that he's ever had has been his mom, but he is not able to touch her. He's only behind glass. He's not able to have physical contact with anyone from the outside world. But he gets 2 15-minute phone calls a week, and one of those calls was to me about a month ago. And I sang him the song. He loved it. He could hear my children, playing in the background, and he told me that he had lost the ability to cry years ago through this experience. That was like something that was just dead in him. And hearing my kids' voices and hearing this song about him made him feel like he could connect to that again and cry again. And that was one of those moments that I'll just never forget, and just very invested in seeing him set free. I mean, I'm just a guy that writes songs, right? I see an injustice and I write about it and I put it out there, and so the world can gather around whatever that cause is. Schaeffer Cox is an innocent man. He was sentenced to 26 years for a crime that never happened. He's in one of the top 10 worst prisons in the world, right here on American soil. His life is constantly in danger. He's being persecuted for his faith, and he was persecuted by the deep state for exposing child trafficking and drug trafficking. So this evidence that needs to be released, like the public needs to know. They need to be calling the politicians in Indiana, demanding for reforms and demanding investigations into this prison, and demanding that Schaeffer Cox be set free, and that this evidence be brought to light sooner rather than later, because it literally can and will and should set him free.
Well, I've so many questions. I don't know where to start, but I mean, he's got family, right? He has 2 kids. Am I right on that?
He has 2 children. Yes, he has 2 children that are about, I believe, 10 and 7, a boy and a girl. And he hasn't seen them in about 5 or 6 years.
I mean, that's heartbreaking in itself. What do you see happening? Are you getting any phone calls from people that can help? I mean, this seems like to me an issue that Dr. Ron Paul could step up on, and others that you helped so much in the liberty movement in the past. I know you still help them, but are you getting some positive response? You told me earlier, and it wasn't on this call, but the algorithms have really hurt you on Facebook and on the internet. So the reach isn't as much as it used to be for your video. So would you go into detail on that?
Sure. So we put out the music video on its own, and I've also been with Angela Clemens, the president of Schaeffer's Angels. I've been doing a lot of interviews on some pretty big shows. I mean, there's several shows that have over 1 million subscribers. Many of them have hundreds of thousands of subscribers, and the videos, if they have the name Schaeffer Cox in them, they're basically being suppressed. The algorithms are very much against this topic, and even views are being taken away from videos. I remember when I first put my Liberty music video out years ago, as we hit 50,000 views within a month, and I was really excited, because that was the first video I had done that got that many views, and 2 days later it had 47,000 views. So that's when I learned that kind of stuff goes on, and that it must have struck a chord, because they wouldn't be taking away my views if it hadn't,
Yeah.
And so that's been happening a lot on the videos the interviews that we've been doing. I did Gary Franchi's show on Next News Network this past week, and it was immediately demonetized. That they appeal, so they remonetized it, but it's just been hidden. It's very difficult to find the video. And it doesn't have anywhere near the views that most of his videos get. I mean, most of his videos get hundreds of thousands of views, and this one's only had about 23,000. We're seeing that with a lot of these different channels that we're on, doing interviews. But there's hundreds and hundreds of comments and thousands of likes. So I'm not convinced people aren't seeing it, but the view counter is not reflecting it. But one thing that I think is really interesting is that the amount of internet trolls on these videos are very, very minimal. I mean, the vast majority of people that are commenting are lifting Schaeffer up in prayer, praising God's name, and asking for clemency for him, demanding that President Trump pardon him. It's just been an overwhelming amount of love. People seem to love the song, they love the video, and just really excited by everything we're seeing, and a lot of these interviews are leading to other larger opportunities that are coming down the road over the next couple of weeks. So we're going to continue this press campaign for as long as it takes, and keep pushing the song out there, and people are sharing it and being affected by it.
Well, this is the perfect time to start hitting, politicians on this. They're going to start campaigning for office. It's that time, campaign season's getting ready to start. So everybody who knows about Schaeffer Cox should be talking to their congressman about this. They can tell their congressman to download the music video or just send them the YouTube video. I mean, this is very simple to do. Most congressmen, not all of them, but a lot of them, you can relay information to them. Every congressman I can't say every, but congressmen usually like to meet with their constituents once every 2 years or once every year. If you schedule a meeting to meet with your congressman, that likely will happen for you. The problem congressmen have in America right now is so few people want to meet with them. So few people even call them. And yeah, a lot of them we can't trust. A lot of them are on the opposite side of us. But there's quite a few that are on our side that still don't know anything about Schaeffer Cox. And if you want to reach President Trump, I would encourage everybody listening to this to go talk to your congressman, because your congressman is one that can reach Donald Trump much easier than we can. I mean, we're a long ways away from Washington D.C. and that'd be the quickest way for Schaeffer Cox. Because what I'm worried about is if Schaeffer Cox has an illness, it sounds like he has scurvy. We need to get him out of there as soon as possible, because we want to make sure he's alive when we get him out of prison. Because being around these Muslims is not good for a Christian, and his life is really in danger every day.
It definitely is. But Schaeffer has a great quote that I put in the video also that says, "God often pins you against the sea before he parts it." And I believe he will be set free soon. And my dream is that he will be able to sing the song that I wrote for him with me on stage in front of a huge crowd of people. And
that would be
that's
awesome.
What we're
I'd like
working
to see that.
So if everyone can go to freeschaeffer.com, you can see the music video there. It's also on my website, jordanpagemusic.com. You can get the song The Persecution of Schaeffer Cox on iTunes, Amazon, Google Play, cdbaby.com. And just download it and share the news with your friends and networks and family, and just help us to get the word out. And the more people that know his name and know about this horrible injustice that's been done to him and the other prisoners in this black site secret prison on American soil, the faster that justice can be done. And that's what we hope to see.
Well, Jordan, I hope to do part 2 on this same subject, soon. I hope to continue to get more, news from you on this, and I'll do whatever I can to help Jordan. I look at Schaeffer the same way you look at Schaeffer. I mean, this is somebody who was in the fight with us, and he got put on the radar because he was exposing sex trafficking, and that seems to be the that seems to be the thing that really puts you on the radar. Yeah, we can expose these wars that take place overseas, but when you're exposing sex trafficking, especially child sex trafficking within the United States of America, that's when people are going to take. And when I say people, that's when the bad guys are going to take a look at you and they'll consider doing something about it to protect themselves, because they don't want, if they're involved in child sex trafficking, and we know a lot of that goes on in America. They don't want to have anybody expose them.
That's for sure. Yeah, it is the most protected of all the conspiracies. That is the most protected and the darkest one. And you see examples of people speaking out about it getting shut down a lot, and it's some really scary stuff. So, but Schaeffer is a very courageous person, and we need to get him out. So we need to demand that this evidence that the judge has ordered to be released to actually be released, because they're taking their sweet time doing that. They're doing it just piecemeal. And but the farther this music video goes, I mean, music is a really non-threatening way to communicate something to someone else, and the song really speaks to the heart of all political prisoners and their stories. But it was specifically written for Schaeffer, but it could be applied to Todd Angle and Jerry DeLamis, and there's many political prisoners out there. There's like a long list, and all of these men need to be set free. But I can't think of a greater advocate for political prisoners than Schaeffer. So getting him out is crucial to fighting for all of these men. And I just really hope that that people step up. My daughter, actually, my 6-year-old daughter, came up to me 3 days ago and handed me $22 in cash. It was the last of her Christmas money, and she said, "Daddy, I want to donate this money to help Schaeffer Cox get out of prison." And so, totally broke my heart. Love this kid. Grabbed her, squeezed her, thanked her for being such an amazing person, and we got on Facebook Live and made a little video asking for doing a donation drive of $22. I want to get 1,000 people to match my daughter's $22 donation, and we've had a lot of people donating $22, which has been really, really cool. So it hasn't been 1,000 people. It's been much less, but they are coming in, and the more the website is shared, the more people are donating. Angela told me that they've had hundreds and hundreds of new email sign-up requests, more than she can keep up with by herself, which is really exciting. And this movement around Schaeffer is really, really growing, and it was all very much a divine, providential, divinely inspired situation. And so I'm just trusting in the Lord and letting Him, guide me through it.
Well, God bless you, Jordan, what you do. Let me know if I can help you at all. I'm going to try to do my best to get the word out. And my prayers are with you. My prayers are with Schaeffer Cox. I just, we need to help him get out and help him get out safely, and then we'll be able to go to a concert of yours. And I want to be there when you and Schaeffer sing. So give me a heads up on that, and maybe I can make my way wherever you guys are.
I will do that, Evan. Thanks for meeting with me, buddy. And again, we'll just send people to freeschaeffer.com and jordanpagemusic.com, and they can find out all about it and find out what they can do.
All right. Thank you, Jordan.
Thank you.
So you finally hear my pleas through these walls, from my knees, and these walls stretch out like an ocean, like a dream. Here I stand, ere I fall. Someday soon I'll be free. What a day that will be. No, the war's already won. The lies are scattered and undone. There's only time between me and what is mine, and the truth will shine through in the end. Until then, didn't I give it all? I will stand, ere I fall. Someday soon I'll be free. What a day that will be. And I'm just trying to change my fate. Dear God, I'm not too late. Haven't I given all? Here I stand, there I fall. I am you, and you are me. We are one, don't you see? 'Cause I was made for greater things. Dungeons have made many kings. One day soon I will be through the veil. Wait for me. One day soon I will be through the veil.